Hello? Hello? May we have your attention for a second? Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and we're going to get started. So many of you have been going to conferences all day. For those of us who played golf this morning, we're starving to death. So we're all waiting to get started at a good time. So, officially, we'd like to welcome you to our second anniversary after the Allied Physicians of California, ABC, and the Pacific IPA merger that was dated in October the 1st, 2014. So today is exactly the second anniversary of that merger and all the good things we're going to talk about tomorrow for our shareholders. So we're going to celebrate our second anniversary. So the program started this afternoon. We have asked many young physicians who are very specialized to come and give us CME for all of you. Did all of you learn anything this afternoon to get your 4 units of CME? It's good, right? Okay, great. So now we've been working very hard. I think all of the board members, all of the administrative team, and I'm sure all of our shareholders, you have all worked so hard to build this company from where it was in 2014 to today. And tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we're going to all get together. We're going to have a review of the past, the present, the future of Allied Pacific IPA. So it's very important that all of the shareholders need to attend tomorrow. Now, Dr. Wei Wei is organizing a drinking party tonight, starting at 10 o'clock at the presidential suite. But even if you go to a drinking party, don't get too drunk, so all of us can be on time for the 8 o'clock meeting tomorrow from 8 to 10, that we have a brunch. And if all of us have learned so much from our speakers today, we need to thank them. So let me go through the list and thank all of the speakers that took their time to be with us this afternoon and impart onto us the new knowledge and skills and whatnot about the future of medicine. We thank you very much, and I would like you to all stand as I reach your name so that all of us, we will hold our applause until the very end after I've introduced all 5 of them, and then we will give them a great round of applause after that. So Dr. Benk, Professor of Medicine and Diabetes at UC Irvine Medical School, Dr. Benk. Okay, he left. Okay, sorry. We still want to acknowledge him though. Dr. Diana Chow is our new partner with Allied Pacific from USC, starting our new clinic in Arcadia in November, end of November. Dr. Stephen Dong, the new surgeon, is joining my practice from Stanford and from Jefferson. Dr. Stephen Dong, where are you? Very good, Stephen. Dr. Andreas Moore is joining Dr. Peter Fong's office from Massachusetts General. And let's thank him for his wonderful talk on all these wonderful techniques to cure cardiac patients. And also, last but not least, Dr. Emily Chang from UCLA, which taught us so much about end of life, how to be compassionate, and all about palliative care. We need to have Emily come back and give us the talk many, many more times. So let's together give a big, warm round of applause for all of our speakers. Thank you so much. Also want to thank Dr. Teresa Sang, one of our prominent board members, to have taken your time to organize a CME for all the doctors. Then we have 2 sponsoring company, one pharmaceutical company, which is Abbey. I don't know if Abbey's and their representatives still here tonight, but we want to thank them for having a sponsorship for our activities today. And last but not least, I want to thank Dr. Emily Chen again for her organization, which is the Chinese American Coalition for Compassionate Care. So thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. Before dinner tonight, we're going to have a little tradition, right? Tradition is we have always in the past asked one of the prominent politicians in our community that we believe have made great contributions to the Asian Pacific Islanders community. Last year was Ted Lieu, and he came and gave us a speech, and eventually he became the United States Congressman, became the president or the chairman of the freshman class in the United States Congress. So very pleased to have that relationship with him and Ted Lieu. Tonight we have another very prominent politician who's going to be giving us an update on our relationship between Allied Pacific, the state of California, so on and so forth. And is someone that we have known for many, many years. Mr. John Chang, our state treasurer, have been coming to all of our Christmas parties every year. And we always joke that he always gave us the latest financial progress in the state of California. We always got a first-hand report directly from him. So I'm going to say just a couple words about John. You all know him so well that I need not say too much. John got his undergraduate degree from the University of South Florida in finance. So he's a finance guy. And then he went to law school at Georgetown University, got his law degree. But guess what he did after Georgetown? He went to work for the IRS. He became a special tax consultant. So any one of you have got a letter from John Chang in the past and you owe the IRS some taxes, now it's your time to get back to John. So no one, right? John is a good guy. So, and after a short stay at the IRS, John, you got elected to the Board of Equalization. You stayed for 2 terms before you got involved. You became the state controller from the year 2007 until 2014. Why do I mention specifically those years in 2007 2014, because those were the toughest times in the state of California. But our governor is Arnold Schwarzenegger, is spending. The state was in the red, there'd be a bankruptcy, there's decisions to be getting IOUs. John came in, and John turned the state around. In his 8 years as a state controller, he really brought us back from a deficit to a positive. And he continues to become the treasurer of California. And now today, if I'm not mistaken, John, you sit on two very important boards. The California Teachers Retirement Pension Plan. You sit on the California Employees Retirement Pension Plan Fund. Those are two largest funds in the entire United States of California that you manage. And according to the Bloomberg News, just a couple months ago, California now has taken over France as the 6th largest economy in the entire world. So California as a state financially is stronger. You look at the gross domestic product of California, I read it's about $2.5 trillion. Not billions, $1 trillion. Because the entire gross domestic product for the United States of California is $18 billion. So he's a man that we want to honor, but not because of his financial prowess, but because of something else. Because of his honesty, his integrity, and his main objective during his official reign of the board of directors, equalization board, and also as the time of the controller. He's stressed one thing. He stressed transparency, honesty, and integrity. And that is what we, as a company, now at Pacific going forward, will stress. We'll make it our highest priority as we grow, as we get to the next level by the end of this year. We want to stress transparency to all of our shareholders, which I think many of you are, and all of you, 99% of the shareholders of the company. Want to stress those qualities that John Chen always stressed: honesty and integrity going forward. So, John, if I may have you, our pleasure of welcoming our state treasurer, John Chen. Well, someday I might become the president of the United States. So, John, it's all yours. Thank you so much. Thank you for all advices you've given me throughout the years, but we're in trouble. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Ken. Well, good evening. I am very delighted to have this opportunity to join all of you. I want to thank Ken for those kind words of introduction and the invitation to share this evening with you. Ken asked me to speak a little bit about the finances. Oftentimes I speak for 2 to 4 minutes at your holiday party, which is always a great time, one of the best holiday parties out there. So I missed this last one because I was in Israel. So I was in Israel for your holiday party 2 years ago. I cut short that trip, and when I went last year, they said you can't cut your trip to Israel short a second time with us. So I stayed for that whole trip. So I'm very excited to catch up with all of you. We have a fantastic group. You ought to pat yourselves or pat each other on the back for the extraordinary progress that you have made over the last half decade. Right? One of the things that we know in the 21st century is that the world is changing very dramatically, and that you see the context and composition of businesses changing. You have a lot of businesses and industries that are outdated, that are being eliminated. You see practices change dramatically, but your leadership is at the forefront of great thinking and has made tremendous forward-thinking progress as to what the business ought to look like, how you bring into practice the best practices, how you grow the populations, how you recognize the demographic change. Just witnessing the groups that you picked up. And Ken, I asked Ken just a little bit for the updated numbers. Your numbers match what's happening with immigration growth in the United States of America. So I am 54 years old, to give you a sense. So I was born in 1962. In 1960, America was 85% Caucasian. It was 11% African American. It was 3.5% Latino, and 0.6% Asian American. Now, for those of you who are calculating, and you got a lot of bright minds, I know it doesn't add up to 100%. It's 100.1%, right? Those are the Pew numbers that they rounded it off. If you look at today, and you look at projections, by percentages, Asian Pacific Americans are the fastest growing immigrant population by percentage. By numbers, it's still Latinos. So, but if you're looking at 38% Asian Americans, you're looking at 33% Latinos. And so we're witnessing here in California what we're going to witness by 2050, 2060 in the United States of America, unless other things happen. And the fact that you are at the forefront of recognizing what needs to do in regards to knowledge about health practices, knowledge about the patients you need to serve, knowledge about what type of outcomes, quality outcomes, and differences in practices. And you see it all the time. When we had the ACA, they would talk about how certain Chinese people were more susceptible to certain types of treatments, but because they didn't have enough Chinese translators, there was a valley in the ability to provide those types of services. So you ought to be very, very proud that you're at the forefront of this dramatic change. And as a state official, I'll talk a little bit about what Ken wanted me to talk about and how all of you are part of it. As Ken alluded to, California was in deep financial trouble in 2008. Now, California is actually experiencing financial difficulties in 2007. Now, I know everybody doesn't remember on an annual basis the economic conditions of the United States of America. But in 2007, the economy was actually, at the beginning of the year, still very good. If you look at growth numbers or other types of numbers, the numbers were very good. However, as Ken mentioned, 2007 was my first year as California's controller. California's controller is the state's chief fiscal officer. So you would pay your taxes to me, because I chair the franchise tax board. I was a member of the Board of Equalization, and then you would receive, if you got a tax refund check, or I fixed the unclaimed property program, and you were entitled to a check because the state had your money from your bank account or somewhere else, an insurance company, you would get my signature on your check. Or if you got your Medi-Cal payment, because I know many of you know about it, because when I go to Ken's party, the number one topic you guys would come to talk to me about was your Medi-Cal payments. I was responsible for making sure that the Medi-Cal payments were being paid. And that wasn't oftentimes the case during our financial crisis. I told the state before the actual recession, before the real estate blow-up, before the global financial crisis, that California was in a negative cash position. And we all should know that if you're in a negative cash position, you're starting to get into financial trouble. Right? Because you as individuals don't run negative cash positions. You as businesses don't run negative cash positions. And the entities that you participate shouldn't run negative cash positions. But on July 13th of 2007, we were already in a negative cash position before the recession began in the winter of 2008. Now, in 2008, we know that we had all those crises. And so I warned the governor and the legislature that they got the budget numbers wrong. They passed a $103 billion budget. They passed it the week after Lehman Brothers blew up, the largest bankruptcy in United States history, before Bank of America was forced to acquire Merrill Lynch, before AIG disclosed their financial crisis. And then we know the stock market tanked. We know that real estate prices dropped dramatically. The median price of a house in the state of California prior to the recession was about $600,000. The median price at its bottom in the state of California dropped by 60%. So people's major asset, 70% of America's number one asset is their house. So imagine in California, your number one asset drops by 60%. And in America, we lost $12 trillion in personal wealth. So tax revenues crumbled in California. They crumbled in the United States of America. But that's why I was fighting, and so that's why you were asking me questions, because I was trying to fix and tell the legislature and governor to fix the budget, so those of you who get Medi-Cal payments from me would still get the payments. But if you remember, in the winter, or February of 2009, I didn't give you your tax refunds for 23 days, and then that summer I issued 450,000 IOUs to the tune of $2.6 billion. Now, I view that as leadership. You have to sometimes in public office or private sector leadership, right? Because you're running shit. Sometimes when you're doing the wrong things, you just have to say we're doing the wrong thing, and you have to let people disagree with you. And sometimes they're upset. Why did I do that? Because I didn't want California to end up in the same place that the great territory of Puerto Rico ended up. Right? Puerto Rico built up so much debt that their debt last year, when they selling bonds, or the bonds they get sold, was trading at 13%. Way back when, California was selling debt at 6%. We have $86 billion in outstanding debt. Over the last 30 years, state, local government, and local governments have borrowed $1.5 trillion with a T dollars. So you don't want a collapse of our investment market, right? It's like many of us were alive in the 1970s, and we remember mortgages being double digits. We also know we made a lot of money, but you don't want to be paying that much in interest and that much in debt. Today, here's the good news. Today, relative to where we were, today's state's treasurer and I'm the banker, I sell our bonds, right? It's the bonds for building healthcare facilities, it's the bonds for building schools, it's the bonds for building roads and highways. I'm the person who's the lead issuer, I'm the person responsible for the state of California for selling that. During the recession, because we had such poor credit, for every $1 billion in bonds, we were paying $201 million more in interest than a state with good credit. So if Thomas has good credit and John has bad credit, right, we borrow $1 million, it's $201 million more. So let's say John, and John is the state of California. I think about what I think many of you already understand. Education is incredibly valuable. I think about $24,000 in chunks. Why do I pick $24,000? Because if we can put in $24,000 into the University of California, right, that's the cost, state cost to fully pay for the state's cost for a student at the University of California. And we know that so many more students can't get into the University of California because the state doesn't have enough money. Let me ask a question. How many of you have students at the University of California, California State University, or the community college system? Raise your hand. So only a few, maybe a dozen. Well, today your student, your child would be paying, because we got our math wrong during the recession, we increased the tuition on your child at UC and Cal State by over 113%. By over 113%. Like that's in part, even though the University of California is relatively cheap to other state schools, our community colleges are cheaper than the rest of the nation, right? But we know that the living costs to go to the UC system is really expensive because they're expensive metropolitan markets. That's why I want to make sure that we fix it so that we can make sure that the next generation can be more highly educated in a global economy. In addition, one of the things that I'm trying to work on and why your work is so important, I always try to focus on communities. Because if you want to fix and make California stronger, you have to make all of our communities stronger. And nowhere does that appear as dramatically different than in the field that you work in, healthcare. A person who lives in a wealthy neighborhood has a life expectancy that is 15